Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we just went over some rookie quarterbacks and some running backs that were not where we expected them to be on the depth chart, the unofficial depth charts that came out. Football is just a month away, and in this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the New York Jets. We've been doing a series going over every single NFL team. We finished up the NFC last week. We are working our way through the AFC East. We did the Dolphins yesterday. We did the Bills on Friday, actually. We're almost done with the AFC East. We've got 3 divisions to go in 3 weeks until football. So we are right on pace to get all of this done. Very, very excited. But we're taking a look at the Jets today. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for tuning in and sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. But like I was saying, in this segment, we are going to take a look at the New York Jets. The New York Jets offseason to start off with. We're going to give them a grade. And obviously, this is a New York Jets team that disappointed last season. They went 7-10 for the second year in a row, but it's hard to blame them. This is a team that went all in on new quarterback, 4-time MVP, 1-time Super Bowl MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers and that vaunted Jets defense, which is the reason they won 7 games. They only lost 10 games, I should say. Aaron Rodgers is back, coming off an Achilles tear, and that makes it hard to judge this Jets team. This is a Jets team that, like I said, is really hard to judge from this last offseason. It's something that, they have all the talent offensively. They have Garrett Wilson, one of the best at his position. They have Breece Hall, one of the best at his position. But what they really went and did this offseason was fix their biggest issue, their biggest glaring weakness from last season, the offensive line. The offensive line has been a huge issue for the Jets. Obviously, not all their fault, but Aaron Rodgers gets hurt on the 4th play from scrimmage. It definitely does not help that the offensive line was not good. That's not to mention the incredible amount of offensive line injuries they went through last season. It was one of the worst offensive lines in the entire league. They go out and they try and fix that. They sign Tyron Smith. They go out and trade for Morgan Moses from the Ravens, rebuilding those 2 tackles. Those are 2 pillars, guys, that if they're healthy, again, that is a big if, but if they're healthy, they are going to be able to do a lot of good for this team. Give Aaron Rodgers some time in the backfield, open up some holes for Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, the new draft pick. This is a team that, as long as, everything on paper clicks the way it's supposed to, and really the only way that it wouldn't, if Aaron Rodgers truly did lose a step this offseason from that Achilles. He hasn't played, maybe he's a little rusty, or the offensive line goes to shambles and people get hurt again. Now, as far as the offensive weapons go, they've fixed the wide receiver core. Outside of Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver core last year was a bunch of dog water. It was awful. Not where you need it to be, not where you want it to be at all. They go out and they get Mike Williams. They go out and they draft Malachi Corley, excuse me. They go out and they try and fix this issue. The defense is still one of, if not the best defenses in the league. You have one of, if not the best corner in the league in Sauce Gardner. Filling out that secondary, it is nasty. Last year, they were ranked number 1 in both secondary, pass rush, and linebackers. As far as that secondary goes, they still have Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, Michael Carter. They bring in Chuck Clark from the Ravens. This is a great secondary unit. They did lose some pass rushing, but they went out and they kind of fixed it. They went and traded for Hassan Reddick, who has 50 sacks in the last 4 seasons. The only guy who is even near him in that number is TJ Watt. It's obviously a little, complicated with the whole contract situation that they're looking at getting, but you put him next to Jermaine Johnson, Javon Kinlaw, Quinnen Williams on the inside. That is a nasty front four. And even the linebackers here, right? You have CJ Mosley, who isn't the same since injuries and leaving the Ravens, but if he can stay healthy, he's a great quarterback to have on the defense. He's super smart, and he's a great defensive quarterback, great captain over there. It's a really, really good defense. It really is. This is a Jets team that has very little holes on paper. Again, on paper is that thing. This is a Jets team that's very fragile. The injury bug can get them. This is a team that's filled with guys that have robust injury histories, including some of their big pickups, or they're just old, which makes them more likely to get those injury bugs. Because of that, it's hard to be 100% optimistic about it, and a lot of this does come down to Aaron Rodgers. How is Aaron Rodgers going to do? I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I believe in this Jets team. I think they're going to be competing for a division, and we'll talk about what record I have. It's a much easier schedule than last year, I believe, for everyone in the AFC East, other than maybe the Bills, who have to go through a gauntlet, and the Dolphins, who have to go through a gauntlet at the very end. We talked about that yesterday. But I'm going to give the Jets an A. They addressed their needs. They weren't greedy about it. They, even in the draft, they go and get Olu Fashanu to go out and fix and add more depth to the offensive line. He's not going to be starting right now, but you put him behind Tyron Smith, who is often hurt, Morgan Moses, who's a little older. He can go and step in and take either that left tackle or right tackle spot when you need him to. And I think that was really smart of them to go and get. But anyway, I'm giving them an A for their offseason. I really, really like what they did addressing all of their needs. We're going to take a quick break here, talk about their schedule in our next segment. We're going to go game by game, give them a record prediction. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We just finished talking about the Jets offseason. They did a great job addressing their need of the offensive line. I gave them an A for their offseason. Nothing too flashy, exciting, but they went and fixed a lot of the patches that they had to go and patch up. In this segment, we're going to talk about their schedule. We're going to go over every single game week by week, give them a record prediction. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with the message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments, throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the Jets' schedule prediction. The Jets have an interesting looking schedule, right? This is a Jets team that their toughest game isn't super tough, right? They're going to have to take on the Texans and the Niners, but outside of those two, there aren't many teams that I look on their schedule and I say, hey, this is a game or this is a stretch that I'm scared of for them, right? Not like the Dolphins, whose last 5-6 weeks is the worst in football. There's just a couple of tough games scattered throughout in what otherwise is a relatively easy schedule. Now, that has a lot to do with them finishing 7-10 last season, despite having all of this talent. And that can really help them out here. Now, that's not to say that this is the easiest schedule in the NFL. It's definitely something that could bite them, come back and bite them. They have a Week 12 bye. A Week 12 bye is not the worst. the greatest, but it's fine, especially when the beginning of the schedule isn't the hardest thing in the world. Although the first game is probably their hardest one of all of them. They start up with 5 primetime games in their first 7 matchups. Their first game of the season is on Monday, just like it was last year. This time on the road in San Francisco, taking on the 49ers. And as much as I'd love to give, Aaron Rodgers his much wanted debut win, I'm giving this to the Niners. The Jets are not quite at the Niners level, although I do think they're very similar. The Titans are the next game on the road as well. This is a game I was honestly going back and forth on. You might look at me like, hey, I'm crazy for doing that, but this is a Titans team that has a lot of talent. We talked about the running back room a little bit earlier on in our show. We haven't talked about it, but Will Levis, I think, is primed for a pretty big season, especially with the wide receivers they've brought in around him. They already had DeAndre Hopkins. They bring in Calvin Ridley. They bring in Tyler Boyd. They still have Treylon Burks, who I am not ready to give up on yet. He's just had a bunch of bad injury luck. But all that being said, I think the Jets take care of business against the Titans, whose offensive line is not up to snuff against a Jets defense. Week 3, home opener against the Patriots. That one isn't too tough to deal with. The Jets take a win here in Week 3, finish up, get off to a hot 2-1 start on the year. Then they go Week 4, host the Broncos. Nice easy game here. The Broncos, I have no idea what's going on at quarterback for them. It's not a great situation, to put it mildly. It might be the worst situation in all of football. The Broncos take a loss here in Week 4 to the Jets. The Jets start off 3-1. Then they head up to Minnesota, take on the Vikings. Sam Darnold probably will be the starter at this point still. I'm giving this game to the Jets. They've got a 4-game win streak right now through 5 weeks. They are 4-1. Week 6, taking on the Bills back at home. This one could go either way. It is a division game. It is at home, so I'm giving this one to the Jets. The Jets' 5-game win streak after dropping the opener to the 49ers. They look good in all these primetime games. Excuse me. They are 5-1 heading into a road battle against the Steelers, and I think this is going to be an interesting game. I don't know who's going to be a quarterback for the Steelers at this point, but I think the defense of the Steelers will be enough that the Jets will not win this game. The Steelers break the streak. The Jets fall to 5-2 on the year. Week 8 is their rematch with the Patriots. It is a division game. Again, I like the direction this Patriots team is headed in. I'm going to give them a win here over the Jets, although that might be a little bit presumptuous of me here. Patriots they win here. The Jets fall to 5-3. Then they get their last really super tough game of the year outside of the Dolphins and outside of the division, and that is the Texans. The Texans, I'm going to give them a loss. It is a home game against the Texans, but CJ Stroud coming in should take care of business against a really good secondary. They lose 3 straight after winning 5 in a row and fall to 5-4. Week 10 against the Cardinals, that is in Arizona. I'm giving the Jets a win here. They get back up to 6-4 on the season before heading back home. Cross-country flight. I think that travel is going to do a little bit to them. They take on the Colts and Anthony Richardson, which is a team that I think might be really good. Kind of inconsistent, but really good at some points, and I think this is going to be one of their good games. The Colts beat the Jets here, and heading into the bye week in Week 12, the Jets are 6-5 on the season, well in the playoff race. At this point, though, as we went over the Dolphins' schedule, they're not super competitive in the division race. The Dolphins at this point, as I have predicted here, is still undefeated, or 10-0 on the season here. They get their bye week. Then they get the Seahawks. Seahawks, as I've said, kind of feel like a litmus test to me for being a good or a bad team. I think the Jets are a good team. Also coming off the bye definitely helps a little bit. I'm giving the Seahawks a loss here. The Jets improve to 7-5 on the year. Then they get the Dolphins. This one is on the road against the Dolphins. I'm giving them a win here. The Dolphins, this is the start of this is the second game in what is the most brutal stretch of games in all of football. The Dolphins take a loss here, and the Jets take a little bit of a step up in that division race, improving to 8-5 on the year. Then they head down to Jacksonville, stay in Florida. I think the Jaguars are going to win here. Trevor Lawrence gets his big contract. This is a Jaguars team that I think is going to be inconsistent, but is going to be good regardless. They take care of business against the Jets, and the Jets fall. Excuse me. They fall to 8-6 on the year. 3 games remaining. They are still in the hunt for this division. If they win out and the Dolphins lose out, they absolutely have a shot. The Dolphins' remaining schedule: 49ers, Browns, and then a game in MetLife against the Jets. Maybe the toughest stretch in football there. The Jets, on the other hand, have the Rams, the Bills, and the Dolphins. It's not an easy schedule. Those are all playoff teams from last year, but it is comparably much easier. I think the Rams are going to take a step back from last year. I still have them making the playoffs, but I do have them taking a step back from last year. The Jets will beat the Rams here in Week 16, improving to 9-6. Then on the road at the Bills. This is a huge game, 2 straight division games to end out the season. I think the Jets take care of business. I'm not a big Bills believer this season. I think they beat the Bills here, much like they did earlier on in the season. The Bills lose. Then we have basically, and it's not quite, an AFC East title game once again between the 11-5 Dolphins and the 10-6 Jets. I have the Jets taking care of business here. Now, tiebreakers, it's hard to predict right now, but that puts both the Dolphins and the Jets dead even at 11-6 on the top of their division. I think I gave the tiebreaker to the Dolphins in this, although it might go to the Jets because of division record. I'm not quite sure where the tiebreakers go, but this is a Jets team that I think, if Aaron Rodgers can be even like 3/4 of what he usually is, can be one of the best teams in football with that vaunted defense that they have. Probably will be the best defense in football this season, even across all 3 levels. Let me know what you think. I have the Jets going 11-6, winning the division, making the playoffs here. Curious to see how far they can go. We'll do a playoff prediction as we get closer to the NFL season later on. So appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me today here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow for everything else going around in the world of sports. You all have a great one, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Let's go.